here's a question for you guys. How much money is your dignity worth? Welcome, it's Midswatch, it's Ryan. I'm going to tell you a great story now about a lot of guys who get so attached to that little bit of success they make in life, they throw away their dignity. It's this interesting situation that comes up with Dread. And you're going to love this story. It's got everything. It's got a man with cancer. It's got a girl leaving him. It's MGTOW rage bait. Amazing stuff. And we're going to go through it. So as always, if you haven't seen a Midswatch before, it's pretty straightforward. These are old field reports from about 7 years ago in the Married Red Pill, the old subreddit from back in the day. We go over the guy's issue. We talk about Jack Ten of Hearts and his little breakdowns of it. And then I add my 2 cents in the afterwards. Gives you a little bit of insight as to why the things in the Red Pill work the way they do. So this one, guy's asking for some Married Red Pill advice. He's 49, has 4 preteens, lives in Nevada. He's a C-suite. He's got an attractive wife. She's 41 according to him. And 6 years ago, diagnosed with cancer and a 3-year life expectancy. He was retired with good income and assets. He moved to a wealthier neighborhood and the wife started hanging out with a bad crowd, starts partying and going out all the time. He beat the odds, successful surgeries, changed his diet and his lifestyle, and he slowly got better. He found out she was having an affair, and he filed for divorce after 19 years of marriage. The divorce became high conflict, 150 grand spent, no resolution in sight, and now we're living in separate homes, time sharing the kids. So while divorcing, he found the Red Pill and, followed the stuff we talked about. He started lifting, and while he's not jacked, he looks good for his age. 6 months of her openly in another relationship, he decided, F it, I'm going to start spinning my own plates. He starts getting some, as he puts it, 5s and 7s, 1 per month, ages 23 to 41. He knew he was going to get just graped in court. He knew this. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So he knew he was going to get graped in court, but he's like, that's the price of freedom. The effect of the divorce on the kids has been mostly because of the attorney shenanigans. He tries to be the stabilizing force in their lives, and they know that their dad is really the one taking care of them, and he keeps all the plates that he has away from his kids. Plates in this case is girls that he's dating non-monogamously. So the wife approaches him after the holidays and asks to talk about the kids. So we talk about the effects of divorce on the kids, the mutual regret, and then the talk turns into, her boyfriend left for New York, and she wants to see if they could rekindle the relationship. Now, she's asking if we can go on a date. So bluntly, if we didn't have kids and they weren't failing in life, she'd have been, out the door. So having taken the Red Pill, he knows he'll be okay, but he worries about his kids and he needs to take advantage, and he wants to take advantage of a 2-parent household to maintain their little lifestyle of the upper middle class, lower middle class lifestyle he wants them to achieve. So the Red Pill teaches that serious illness in the men is usually followed by cheating, divorce, hypergamy, blah, blah, blah. He was lucky in that he beat it. So does that mean that his temporary beta status has reverted to alpha? Or in this case, is he now attractive when he wasn't before? And yes, I made mistakes while I was sick. Bluntly, am I nuts? Can I show her how alpha I am and keep the marriage going long enough to at least get the kids to college? As far as her not being worthy, well, all women are like that, and I really expect anything different from any other women. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. He's like, I need honest advice. So you know what? Let's do Jack first. Let's do Jack and then we'll get to me. And Jack's like, are you stupid? Are you stupid? If your kids are destined to be high-achieving, successful people, then any inherited wealth will be a low coefficient multiplier at best. If they get a college undergrad in a practical field, minimal student debt, they're already ahead of 99% of their peers, they can figure the rest out. You seem pretty convinced more about your financial nest egg than holding any sense of standards or ethics for yourself. Your wife didn't just branch swing. She did it in the shittiest way possible. She is not a good person, man. A good person will tell you she can't do this anymore. Your illness is a burden she can't bear. She wants to separate. It's messed up, but that's not shitty. Do you see the difference? So your attitude makes zero sense to me. To each their own. She doesn't seem financially rational, and that's also what protects us. Since there is no ultimate good to defer to, you have to know what you want so that you can ask yourself the right questions. I had a whole story about my ex-business partner and how he offered me a buyout deal that was reasonably fair on paper but effed up on principle. Short version was, I may have burned up more in legal fees, but I went to bed every night knowing I was fighting for the company I built with my own two hands, and he could go piss off. So we actually reached a deal that was better for myself a year later, and he said, clearly, this is something you feel strongly about, so just tell me what you want. I had a very angry, resentful frame, but it was mine, and I owned that shit this whole time and was not going to pretend otherwise. So what you need to realize is eventually you're going to be earthworm, just like the rest of us, earthworm food. And your kids may benefit from any material possessions you passed on to them, but they're going to be earthworm food too. Paying off student loans and affording down payments on nice condos and housing and extravagant princess wedding for your daughter, that's nice, but they're just things. It's just stuff. Now, I was willing to burn down my whole company because it was just stuff too. I'd start another one, or maybe I wouldn't, and either way it wouldn't matter. But I knew what I couldn't do was buy out my lazy piece of shit ex-partner for how equivalent of 100% of the net income would be for me for next 2 years. We're all destined to decay in the ground. Compromise on what you feel strongly about may save you a couple bucks, but it's not worth it. And the guy's kind of, chirping back. Yeah, that's how I started out, white hot like the sun. But now he's like, it might not be that bad. Attorney's not too happy to assist with this. Talks about his legal fees, money, etc., etc. Essentially, he's deering. Defend, excuse, explain, rationalize. And then Jack just chirps right back. Dude, give me a number. Seriously, give me a fucking number and how much you need to save to reconcile with your piece of shit whore of a wife who fucking partied and cheated on you while you were infirm because, I don't know, I guess you had the audacity to get cancer. Give me a fucking number. How many dollars does a man like yourself need to save to justify forgiving all of that and reconciling? I want to know. I seriously want to know how much money you'll sell your entire sense of self-worth under the delusion that this is somehow better for your kids. Tell me. I'm not being snarky. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to belittle you. But realize that considering this is the closest thing a man will ever do that counts for selling his soul. So I'm genuinely curious. I cannot ask anybody else I know because they have never entertained a situation like this. They've been fortunate enough to never get into one, or to have a net worth low enough that the answer was irrelevant, or they would just refuse to sell their soul. But this does apply to you since you're considering it. So I want to know what kind of math is involved. Tell me the number. I want to know. He continues on. I wish he would just admit he's done some kind of smart financial management, felt like he had a position to retire, as he did in his 40s. His assets would generate income and appreciation passively. Some of those assets would be inherited by his children. He imagined his stuff as a little kingdom the children could nurture and grow. The divorce will require liquidating and splitting some of the assets, and that just sucks. Visions of his kingdom are dashed. His passive income will take a hit, and despite his health battles, he still may live for a couple more decades. Is it worth dusting off the Rolodex, headhunting, getting back into those corporate exec jobs to get it back? And I think that's his struggle, and that's the reason he keeps mentioning money and children. It seems like the idea is reconciling with his wife will allow him to avoid splitting up his kingdom. But, fuck it. Go make another one. You did it before. You did it again. You can do it again. And lastly, I can't imagine any reconciliation going well anyway. Clearly the divorce is contentious. His wife feels aggrieved somehow. Probably because, he had the audacity to get cancer. Or maybe that she helped enable his CEO lifestyle and whatever, and it's time for her to collect on that. She'll fight any prenup or postnup and won't hesitate to fire the divorce bullet whenever she feels entitled to be aggrieved, which is probably going to be constantly. So this is nothing but pain. So I did some thinking on why I feel so visceral about this. It's not just his wife, it's him. The way I was condescended to by all my previous employers. They called me a loose cannon or too emotional because I didn't make a 100% financially rational decision. I dropped clients when they treated me or my team like shit. When their boss is like, treating you like shit is literally in the job description. Because even the CEO has to answer to some asshole, whether it's a board chairman or a public market or an unhappy customer or whatever. There's always those guys that are telling me, we feel you don't operate in terms of a risk-reward framework because I make too many decisions on principle. And no matter how many times I try to tell them factoring emotion into the decision doesn't make it an emotional decision, they don't get it. They never got it. So I left, and now I get to be CEO. The shit is the same and the bullshit is not. And this is why he's getting all weird out about it. Because he's seeing his exact situation from the other side. This is that CEO that kept telling him to be a prick, right? Anyways, so if you ask a CEO how much he'd need to be paid to eat an actual spoon of shit, he'll give you a number. It'll be a high number, but he'll give you a number. He'll ask questions, like if it's pre-tax, whether it's human, whether it's delivered in installments or a lump sum. He won't say, what the hell, you can't pay me enough to eat shit. And it's this kind of thinking that leads a CEO to make big bucks. It's also leading somebody to consider why reconciling with their whore of a wife who cheated on them while they had cancer is a good idea. So yeah, he kind of went off. I left a lot of that out. So my take on this is one of those interesting things. It's something that's fairly common, is that a lot of guys, because they are afraid, they're afraid of separation, they're afraid of divorce, they're afraid of losing money, it's loss aversion. But because we can't mentally accept loss aversion, because that's like, oh, men aren't supposed to be afraid, you can do whatever. They use their kids as shields. You see it all the time, man. You see these guys that they have a cheating whore wife, a frigid wife, horrible women, horrible. None of this, well, maybe, no, flat out horrible. I got a good friend that's like that. I get it. And then what happens? They're staying together because the kids. As if staying with a horrible person is somehow good and helpful for your kids. Why? They'll make up some other rationalization. Oh, because my house is $20,000 more expensive than when I paid for it in 1997. And it's always this idea that as long as two people are together, because there's a statistic out there somewhere that said it, yeah, that everything will be fine. And it's not. What it is you get kids being raised not knowing any better, and all they see is, okay, be a cuck. Let your wife run roughshod over you, and that's how you be a good man. And they may know it's not good, because they see nothing but fights and a miserable childhood, but when they grow up, they don't default to what they think is right, they default to their training. And what did you do? You train them to be that guy that takes back his cheating whore wife. So when I talk about frame, and the big part about this is, what is it in your life that is a hard boundary? What is your principle? What is it that you will not accept? Not what do you want the other person to do? He can't tell his wife, I don't want you to sleep around and do drugs and try and divorce me and take all my money while I have cancer. Because you can't stop her from doing that. She clearly felt it was like within her right. The audacity, huh? But what you can do is like, I'm not putting up with that shit. And you know what? I keep telling you guys, being a 100% dad 50% of the time is way better than being a 50% dad 100% of the time. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, it will. And if it doesn't, then I'll still be here when those kids turn 18 and they have a fucked up marriage and they need to talk to somebody about it. So enjoy yourselves. Catch you on the next one.